Hello again, my name's Levi. Welcome to all you Hickory golfers that might be out there. Um, Today I've got a subject I'd like to talk about. It's about niblicks and my kind of interest in finding the best approach to playing with them. Having played modern golf for a long time, I've always found wedge play an easier part of the game, but when it comes to hickory play I just really struggle. I've got a couple of clubs in my bag. I've got a kind of 51 degree niblick, which works fairly well for the lower kind of punched shots around the green. That's what I tend to rely on more than anything. But I also have a 58 degree niblick, which was bent by my friend Gavin, and in certain situations it works really well, especially in bunkers, really heavy lies, like tight, thick, gouging type shots that can be difficult with any club. So I just wanted to discuss my plans to try and help me a little bit in terms of finding a club that really fits me and how I play. So it occurred to me that the Vokey wedges that I play with my modern set, you can buy them in a real good variety of grinds. There's about 8 different grinds there. What I mean by that is that they changed the design of the sole of the club to allow for more bounce in certain areas, just to help your style of play, the way you like to hit your wedge shots, and to give better versatility. And that's something that's lacking with my 58 degree niblick. So I've thought about the best way to kind of deal with the situation. And another factor is that in wet conditions, I play quite a lot of hickory golf, maybe play at least once a week. Unless it's raining I won't play, but if it's damp, moist on the ground, if the ground itself is kind of squelchy and wet, I'll still play it. And I just believe that these clubs are more designed for link style golf, or that the cues they got from design were from a period where most people were playing link style golf. And my golf course is just a parkland golf course. There's a river down the bottom, it's called Cone Valley, and it's a great golf course, but you've got to be able to hit the higher shots into the greens. They stop quickly, and you need a versatile club that you can rely on to get up and down. So what is my plan? Well, I'll show you this club. This is one I picked up about a year ago, and I've been playing with, as I said, quite successfully out of bunkers and harsh lies, but struggle, say, in the fairway from 60 to 80 yards in. I'd usually hit my 58 degree modern wedge quite comfortably, knowing the kind of strike and flight I'm going to get. Whereas with this I really struggle, and it means that I'm having to hit basically a gap wedge into greens. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, and I can make do, but I just feel like one of the most important parts of the game is to score well from inside 100 yards. You've got to be getting up and down and potentially having birdie opportunities on the shorter par 4s to really score well. So this is a niblick that I've got at the moment. I'll just come a bit closer. This is actually, it's a no name niblick in terms of manufacture. It says on the back of it, warranted, made in Scotland, J. Bremner Niblick Special. Doesn't give too much away. As you can see, it's got a bit of a flange, and where it's been bent to 58 degrees is actually got a slight amount of bounce, say probably 3 or 4 degrees of bounce, which means that it's far superior to most other niblicks that are available in terms of bunkers and them heavy lies that I was talking about. It's got a line face, which is nice. I can actually get some spin, which is useful. Yeah, and it's a usable club. It's got a nice, I think it's 36 and a half inches long. It's got a good, I think it's C9 swing weight, and yeah, should last a long time. So I'm happy with the club itself, but the one thing that bugs me is when I set up to this, and I think this is fairly common with most niblicks, is the rounded profile that comes with these niblicks. In tight lies that does kind of work, because I can imagine that you're getting a less contact with the ground early on, so you're able to pick the ball up easier, and in bunkers it does kind of work. But for general wedge play, which is where the scoring is more than in bunkers, the idea is to avoid the bunkers, especially when playing hickory golf. I just feel like I need something more versatile. So my theory is, the long-winded version, is that I would like to copy one of my wedges, which is a Titleist Vokey D grind. What you might see is this little patch of black which I've just scribbled onto the bottom of my club. That shows the rough shape, what I'm aiming for in terms of a grind for this wedge. And if I can kind of copy that Vokey wedge, I believe that I can get less of an edge, so a more rounded profile, more bounce, possibly lose maybe 2 or 3 millimeters of material, but also flatten out that profile. Hopefully you can see it, that profile there where it's rounded, and get it to a more flatter shape, which is a more versatile shape. Yeah, so the next stage really is just to have a go with a grinder. It's not going to be particularly pretty, but I think I can finish the metal back to basically where it was before. I might lose a couple of points swing weight, but I don't think it's going to be a huge amount. But I feel like it's going to be worth it, because at the moment I'm just using this club for emergencies. It's not really used to its full potential. I'm only playing with 9 clubs. So if I'm only using this in emergencies, then I'm basically down to 8. So if it's only getting hit 2 or 3 times around at most, I'd like to improve that. I'd like to be hitting this 8-10 times around. I'd like to be, 60 yards away and having a 10-foot putt, instead of being happy with a 20-foot putt. That makes a big difference in golf, and I believe that better scores can come from it. So I haven't seen any other content out there showing this kind of action to try and improve wedges, but I'm always up for experimenting, and I'll give it a go. So maybe I'll just put some pictures up of the process as I go along, and maybe I'll take it out on the course and video a few shots and just give you my verdict on whether I've made the club better or worse. Regardless, it's an experiment. Okay, it's a nice club, I don't want to ruin it, but you've got to learn, haven't you? How do you know? It might be the best thing I've ever done. So we'll find out. So wish me luck. Thank you. Back at Cone Valley now. I've got my Niblick, which I've ground. Here's what's happened. It's definitely got a bit more bounce than it had before. I'm hoping it's going to help. So I hit a few shots, and I'll see how I get on and report back home later. back home now, and I've been testing out this Niblick this afternoon. I'm pleased to say that I think there's been some improvement there. The grinding process was actually quite simple, really. I've just got a standard grinding wheel, which I just gradually took some of the material off the bottom edge just to take that rounded shape off, and worked on that area that I put the felt tip on, and it got it to a point that I was happy with just by eye. I didn't really kind of measure anything in particular. I was just kind of comparing it to my Hickory wedge, which I have here as well. Yeah, and it seemed to go quite well. I polished it with ever finer grits of sandpaper. Eventually just gave it a quick buff at the end, and it came up probably better than it was before, actually. So on to how it plays. The pitch shots, not quite as good as I would have hoped. I mean, the course was very wet, so it's always difficult with hickory play when the course is wet. I could really feel the difference in bounce. I mean, I could strike the ground hard and steep and it still wouldn't really dig. But there's some more practice required there with the pitch shots. As you see in the video, it's still kind of hard to hit them the correct distance. I'm going to have to practice that more, but I think as the spring comes along, maybe the way I play the shot might change as well. Out of bunkers, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it's possibly the hardest area of play, the hickory game. In the bunkers, it's exceptional. I feel like I don't even have to think too much about getting it out. Yeah, just swing at it and take that explosion shot, and it just pops out really easy. So I was very pleased with that. It's definitely an improvement on how the club was playing before. I also tried a few shots where I was kind of short-sided, had to get over an obstacle like a bunker, and that was easy as well. When I play them type of shots, obviously it's important that you get the ball high quickly, and it's quite easy to scoop them, I feel. When I've tried to play that type of shot before, if you try and scoop too much, you end up thinning the thing, your low point changes because your angle of attack's changing. So I just stuck with the idea that if I hit down on it hard enough with the bounce, that it would pop up, and it did. It was really quite easy. It wasn't too difficult at all. And they were a mixed lies as well. It wasn't just like fluffy, easy to get under. It was, you know, having to hit down on it, even with the wet turf, still popped up quite nicely. Chipping round the greens was fine. I mean, it's still probably not the club I would choose unless I absolutely had to, just because I feel it's better to keep it a bit lower. But if there's obstacles, like I tried chipping over like a kind of drainage cover where I had no choice but to chip over it, and it was fine. Yeah, probably not too much difference on how it was before. So in general, I was quite pleased with it. It was definitely, it's only taken me an hour or so just to grind it and polish it, and beautify the club a little bit as well, which I'm pleased with. So in general, quite happy. So this brings me on to a little piece I'd like to talk about, kind of niblicks and how they developed over the years. I'm by no means an expert, but I've got an interest in it, so I thought I'll just share what I think about the subject. So niblicks came along in the 19th century and were, before they even called niblicks, they were kind of rut irons designed to get out of track marks, awkward lies, situations where they didn't want to break a wooden spoon. So yeah, just basically emergency situations. From there they developed, and here's an example. This is probably about 1905, 1910, and if I can show, you might be able to see it. It's got kind of like a standard design, nothing too special about it. Very much a flat bottom, no flange, no bounce, sharp leading edge, and as many hickory golfers will know, they're not too bad in firm conditions, but as soon as it gets a bit wet or the situation gets a bit difficult round the greens, etc., it's very difficult to make a good connection with it and play the shot you want to play. From there it developed to So this club was probably the next step where they started to introduce flanges, and that definitely seems to help. Definitely with turf interaction, makes it a little bit easier to hit it. I suppose you could probably hit it a bit heavy and still get away with it. And these are the clubs I play with personally. I feel like they're just a little bit better. As long as you can find one with a half decent swing weight, then it's definitely a bit easier to play with these style of hickory clubs. And then we move on to the steel era. So in the early 30s, Gene Sarazen came around. He wasn't the first to invent the sand wedge, I don't think, but he was definitely a pioneer. He decided that he wanted to find a better way of playing bunker shots, and he went about developing a sand iron by basically soldering onto the bottom of his flanged niblick. I'll put a picture up on the video for you to see. And in 1932 he won the Open, and with that changed golf forever. I think he developed the wedge, which we see today, and it's a really popular way of getting out of bunkers and making life easier for a lot of golfers. So here we have a probably mid-30s Sarazen sand iron. You can really see the thick flange, the bounce, the weight is nice. It's got a dot punched face, this one here, and it just works really well. That plays almost the same as a modern sand wedge. From there we go to the modern day. I play with these Titus Vokey wedges, and of course they're really easy to play with, really versatile. You can hit a lot of different shots with them, and that's what I kind of wanted to get out of my Niblick, and feel like I've got halfway to it. It's only when you actually look at the club you realise how much things have developed over time. There's so many small nuances about what makes this club more playable. It's surprising. I've never really looked at wedges this way before, and yeah, it's quite enlightening. So from there, last little point is just about innovation and experimenting with all kind of golf clubs throughout the ages. One of the reasons I love hickory golf is because there's just so much out there, so much variation. There's nothing alike. Everything's been patented or had a reason why they think that's better than the next club, and with Niblicks it's no exception. I've seen various different types of Niblicks where they've tried to get over the issue of getting out of bunkers. A couple of good cases is the Hagen Ironman, not particularly common, kind of hard to get hold of, and the Skoogie, which is a funny name. I think both of them came in concave faces, which again, that's an interesting design. I'm not quite sure how that would work. I guess maybe it would hit the face and then bounce again higher up on the face, just to try and lift the ball out easier. They had wide flanges. I'll put some pictures up on the video, and they must be easier to play with than a standard sharp-edged Niblick. And yeah, it's quite interesting to see how it's developed. I think the pros at the time were definitely experimenting. You know, Gene Sarazen's a great example, and that's why I feel like what I've done here isn't really a negative thing. You know, a lot of people would probably say, oh, you know, you're ruining a good traditional club there, why would you do that? But this is exactly what was going on throughout the ages. Everyone's trying to find a better way to play the game, to make it easier, and I feel the same. I like to experiment, and in this case I think it's worked. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. I'm sorry if I've rambled on a bit. If you've stuck with me to the end, then please give me any comments, any interesting thoughts on the subject, and I'll catch you soon. Thank you.